So I know that chart may have been a little confusing, so we're going to break down each of those terms a little bit further just to really drive that point home so that, again, when you're looking at that healthcare plan that you're picking during open enrollment, you'll know this is the plan for me, fitting my budget, fitting my expected medical expenses. So again, premiums. That is what it costs you each paycheck. Your company, the insurance company, take that money out of each paycheck just for you to have health insurance. Or vice versa, if you're on one of the government plans, it's what you have to send every month just to have insurance. So again, on a higher ed plan where you're getting more extensive coverage, where it's costing you less out of pocket just to pay for your healthcare expenses, it's because you're paying more a month. So if you look at plan 1, that premium, that platinum coverage, I'm just making up these numbers. These will all change from company to company and plan to plan. But a good example is like on a platinum coverage, it could be one that's $500 a month versus that middle of the road coverage. I'm sorry, and that's not a month, that's a paycheck. So make sure you check that, because that's a mistake a lot of people make on their premiums, is they think it's per month. That's per paycheck. So a premier plan could be upwards of like $500 per paycheck. That middle of the road coverage could be somewhere around $300 per paycheck. That lower end coverage could be anywhere from $100 to $200 per paycheck. And again, your employer will break down exactly what those are. The big takeaway is just understand, this is what you're paying no matter if you use your health insurance or not. You're paying just so you can walk around with a card that says I have health insurance, and that's per paycheck. So again, fitting in your budget, knowing if you have children or not, all these things kind of weigh into that. Big takeaway, premium, what it costs you per paycheck to have health insurance. Deductibles are next. Deductibles, what it costs you to use your health insurance. Now, premiums are pretty straightforward. They don't really change once they're set in stone. Deductibles are set too, but there's some variation that happens that we'll get into in a second. But think about again, what it costs you to use your health insurance. That means that, let's say for example, you fall, you break your leg, and you need surgery. You need to pay X amount of dollars out of pocket to that provider before your health insurance kicks in. And like we said on that previous chart, that amount varies depending on which plan you pick. If you pick the premier plan, which costs you more money out of pocket just to have it, it's going to cost you less to use it. And the second plan is, again, middle of the road. Third plan being the most expensive deductible because the premium was the least. So let's talk about that. Again, these numbers are all going to vary based on your specific provider, specific plan. But for example, on the premier plan where you're paying more per month just to have insurance, you might have somewhere around like a $500 to $1,000 deductible. That middle of the road plan could be like a $1,500 to $2,000 deductible. And that cheapest plan that it costs you to have is going to cost you more to use it, right? So you're paying less money each month to have it, but you're going to pay more out of pocket to use it. Now, where we get a little confusing here is that there's a difference between individual and family deductibles. Has your mind blown yet? Bear with me. Individual versus family would be if you have family members on your health care plan with you. If you're on your spouse's plan, your spouse is on your plan, you have kids, you'll have what's called an individual versus family deductible. And usually the family deductible is just double what the individual is. Again, don't hold me to that because all plans are different, but it's round about that. So let's say you are going to physical therapy for a while and you're paying toward a deductible on that. Your $500 is your deductible. So each visit you're paying toward that $500. That same amount of money also comes off of your family deductible. Now where this could be beneficial is, let's say you're healthy, you're not really using your health insurance, but your spouse is using the health insurance, or your kid's been sick a lot so they've been going to the doctor. Your out-of-pocket your family deductible might be met without you having to do anything because they've been using the insurance so much. But again, that varies depending on who's sick, who's got anything going on. Big takeaway is that the deductible is what it's going to cost you to use that insurance, whether it's you individually or your family total. So now we're going to talk about the difference between deductible and out-of-pocket max. And out-of-pocket max and deductibles are terms that you're going to see when you pick every single insurance plan. And you're always going to see the out-of-pocket max is higher. Why? Because out-of-pocket max is the total amount of money it will cost you out of pocket to pay for complete coverage. That means once you have out-of-pocket paid your out-of-pocket max limit, you will not have to pay another dime for insurance that calendar year. Now, most people don't hit their out-of-pocket maxes if they're staying healthy, because a few doctors or visits here and there, your checkups, things like that, won't even touch but a small fraction of that out-of-pocket max. But it is something to think about. Again, if you have a major surgery coming up, having a baby, something like that, out-of-pocket max does kind of come into play there. So again, when we're picking and differentiating between those two plans, there is some math to be done to see if that plan makes more sense for you, especially if you plan on hitting or approaching that out-of-pocket max. Now again, there is a individual versus family, like we talked about the deductible, the same with the deductibles, where it's about double your individual and family out-of-pocket max amounts. But the good news is that typically covers your entire family. So if you're a family of 4 and you have an out-of-pocket max individual at $3,000, $6,000 should be it for the entire family. So let's say mom and your daughter end up using $6,000 worth of healthcare expenses. You and your son are covered at 100% for the rest of the year. But again, those all kind of things that vary from family to family, plan to plan. So just kind of laid it out here, similar with the deductible. And again, these are not concrete numbers by any means, but just examples of what you might see on your plan. Where on an individual level, in plan 1, that most expensive plan that it costs you to use, your out-of-pocket max could be around, let's say, $3,000. But on that same tier 2 plan, it could be upwards of $7,000. Tier 3 plan is $9,000. Basically just understanding that as your plan gets cheaper, your out-of-pocket max costs go up. And then again, on that family level, it's just double what the individual is. And again, that's not always 100% accurate, but kind of give or take there. So again, big takeaway is the difference between a deductible and out-of-pocket max. Deductible is what you need to pay out of pocket just to use the healthcare insurance before the insurance pays anything to the provider. Whereas out-of-pocket max is the total cost that you will have to pay out of pocket. After you hit that out-of-pocket max, everything is covered at 100%.